Hi friends and family, it's Lisa from Small Paper Stars here. Welcome back to my channel. This will be a very different type of vlog than what I usually put out. I've been mulling this over the last few weeks, and my daughter and my husband are both napping right now. So I thought I'd take the opportunity to sit down and do this video. And just explain, I guess, a little bit more where I've been the last few weeks, really the last couple months, just so people have a better understanding. So I haven't given up on my small business. That is definitely not what is happening. I am still very driven to make this work. But for those who know me, I guess for the ones that know me, know that I've had a very, I guess, rough time with my mental health since I was really young. I mean, I remember, I was just 10 or 11. I started seeing and thinking that I'm just a little different than most of my friends. The way that they think and talk and everything was just sometimes felt a little foreign to me, I guess you can say. I knew that a lot of things that came through my mind didn't seem normal. But back then, I was young and I didn't know better, and I just chalked it up to just me being different. It wasn't until high school, really, that I started being able to piece things together, and I realized that, that there could be something wrong with me. But again, it wasn't something that I openly talked about. Growing up in a very traditional, Asian family, mental health issues, they just don't happen, It's just, you have a weakness, or you just need to try harder. And yeah, so I started realizing then that I had issues, but didn't really know what to do about them, or, who to talk to about them. It wasn't until I hit university that things really turned for the worst. I was having really negative thoughts and even suicidal thoughts. It's something, again, that I never really, I guess, cared much for. Again, it's just, people would just tell me, you suck it up. You'll feel better soon. All you have to do is cheer up. Yeah, it was a rough few years. I tried to help myself as best as I could, whether it's through expressing myself in in music, in my art. A lot of people just labeled me as emo or goth or whatever else label there is. But I got through those years pretty unscathed, I have to say. But again, there wasn't a whole lot of things being done, but I was a lot more self-aware at this point, and I knew what I had to do to function and to continue to be something of worth to others. I would just work my ass off on certain things, and just get by. It was just my way of not burdening other people, and yeah, it worked. I learned to deal on my own, which now I know isn't the healthiest way of doing things, but at that time I really didn't know where else to go. I was a very lost young adult, like most young adults are. I didn't feel I had a place, didn't really feel I had a purpose, unless I was doing what other people wanted. So I just kind of did what was expected of me, and I thrived. Fast forward, I have my own family. I got married, bought our own house, and I got pregnant with our first child. And, again, the uncertainty of everything always made me very anxious. But, people always reassured me that, you got this, you're smart, you're savvy. Parenthood should be nothing for me. Boy, was I wrong. It was the beginning of the pandemic here in Canada, when I was in my last trimester, and a lot of things were changing around me, and I was just so focused on getting everything ready for when my daughter arrived that, everything was just in a whirlwind. Appointments ended up turning from being, my husband and I going to them and experiencing, all these firsts together, to me being in a cold room by myself waiting for the doctor to come in to poke me or to jab me or to tell me the next steps of what I had to do, and then I would have to relay that to my husband, which wasn't a huge deal. I mean, I was kind of sad that my husband didn't get to come for the last few appointments before my daughter was born, but my doctors reassured me at that time that, the hospital rules are still that he would be allowed in with me, and in the OR, I had to have a planned C-section, just because of certain complications that I can't give birth naturally. So I had a planned C-section, which my water broke early by a few days actually. So the night of March 27th, around 11:30, my water broke. And, that evening before, just a couple of hours before, I just finished getting some stuff ready for next week at work. I'm trying to tie up some loose ends, but I couldn't work all night, so I had to leave some stuff half finished, and I didn't even have my hospital bag packed at that point. I was actually planning to do it the next morning. But lo and behold, we raced to the hospital. We were told that my husband wasn't even allowed into the hospital at that point. So he stayed outside, waited for me to get checked in and ready. So I went in, got checked in. I was told that, my husband can't come into the room that I was in while we waited, but he would be allowed in the OR. So he ended up going home to try to pack a hospital bag as quickly as possible. And, the doctors were checking up on me, or the nurses were checking up on me, and then partway through, my husband packing up some stuff for me and himself, sort of, I guess. The doctor came in and told me, we're prepping the OR, just cleaning it up. We'll get you in just a moment. So I frantically texted my husband, you need to come back now. They're going to take me in very soon. So he got most of the stuff that I needed and the baby needed. But the poor guy forgot to pack a change of clothes for himself and anything really for himself. And he came rushing back to the hospital. An hour went by. We were texting back and forth. It's like, what's going on? I don't know. I haven't heard anything. And at this point, I'm laboring, but they can't give me anything because I'm going in for a C-section. So they can't give me anything until I go into the OR. So I tell them, they're not coming back anytime soon. Go back home, finish getting packed, getting stuff ready. So back and forth we go for the next couple hours, to the point where my husband was just so exhausted that he ended up falling asleep in the parking lot of the hospital, waiting for me to go into surgery. Finally, 4 hours after getting to the hospital, they finally tell me that they are ready for me and start prepping me to roll me into the OR. It wasn't until then that I found out that my husband wasn't allowed in the OR. So got rolled in there alone. I mean, not really alone. There was a bunch of nurses and my doctor and everything there, but it was so freaky and so surreal to me. And the actual C-section didn't really take that long. It's like the longest part was waiting for the anesthesia to take effect. The whole process of, cutting me open, taking the baby out and everything felt like just moments, really. All I felt was, tug, 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 pop, and a cry from my daughter, and she was perfect. I never felt so in love until that moment when the nurse held her to my face. And, it was a happy moment, but I was so sad at the same time because my husband didn't get to experience any of this with me. And, I so wanted one of us to hold our daughter, but my arms were tangled in wires and needles and everything. But, I said, she's here, she's healthy, and she's safe, and she's so beautiful. She was so gorgeous. Being a puffy baby, can be, but to me she was so perfect. So got rolled into recovery, and that was when my husband was allowed into the hospital finally. In recovery, we actually found out that, you know, once, like, because of how severe COVID was at that point and how so uncertain we were with how everything was going, that once we got rolled into my room, where we would be staying for the next few days, we weren't actually allowed back out. If John left, he wouldn't be allowed back into the hospital. So poor guy had to survive 2.5 days in a hospital in the same clothing, with no toothbrush or anything. Meals, were brought in for us, because no one was allowed out of their room, even into the hallway. They, were lovely and provided my husband, breakfast, lunch, and dinner with me, but he had to suffer with hospital food with me. And, the hospital time was a blur too. I just remember laying there and just looking at my daughter in her little incubator and just like, wow, we did this. Like, we have a child. But nothing really hit me yet. The lactation consultants came and saw me, and at that point totally freaked me out as a first-time mother on how to breastfeed. I've never felt so useless in my life than when I was being told how to breastfeed and how not to breastfeed and how often I had to breastfeed. There was a chart that we had to keep so the nurses could take notes on how often, my daughter was feeding and for how long. And, I kept being pressured by lactation consultants to get a pumping machine. The pumping machine is a lifesaver and everything. Like, I know they have to push it. I had my own machine, but, they said, that's not a good one. You have to take the one that we got, which is a pretty expensive machine, really. I didn't end up doing it. I mean, breastfeeding seemed to be going fine, like, based on just me watching my daughter and seeing, how many diapers she had. I thought everything was fine. I was told that, she had to feed on each side 15 minutes. She never fed more than a couple minutes on each side. And I was just told, like, you just need to feed her longer. You have to force her to feed her longer. I'm like, if she's not going to latch, she's not going to latch. Like, but what am I supposed to say as a first-time mother? I have absolutely no idea. So I just followed the doctor's nurse's words for it. I have to force her to feed. Because of her glucose, I was forced to have to formula feed her as well. Which they said was just to bring her glucose up, which was fine. And they said, like, but you should just be breastfeeding going forward. So, got through that in the hospital, got home, opened the door, came in, got changed, looked at my daughter in the bassinet, and at that moment, an entire weight and feeling of dread just came over me. I looked at her and I'm like, what have I done? I don't know how to take care of her. What am I supposed to do now? Like, am I supposed to just leave her there until she cries for me? This was at the beginning of COVID, so there was no one around. Like, we couldn't have family over. Everybody was supposed to stay in their households. And, apart from phone calls and all that kind of stuff where people would reassure me, it's just like, you know what? Feed her when she's hungry. Play with her if she wants to play. let her sleep if she wants to sleep, which sounds so easy and sounds really logical to me now. But at that time, I gone to the total deep end of postpartum, and it was bad. Really bad. I mean, it's hard to admit. I mean, I had those negative thoughts come back. You know, I'm not good enough. She deserves better. You know, it'd be so much better if maybe I wasn't around. Someone else could take care of her. You know, I thought to myself, like, I would never hurt my child. But in the back of my mind, I always thought, you know, what if I hurt her? My husband, bless him, tried to help me as best as he could, but, you know, this was a first for him too. You know, it was a lot of pressure for him too. So I turned to Dr. Google for everything. The first year went by in a total blur. Total blur. I did end up getting help later on, before her first year passed. And it helped somewhat. I mean, there were people to reassure me that I was doing well, and the doctors were really kind. Of course, they put me on prescriptions to help with my mental state, and this was actually the first time I ever heard of an actual diagnosis for what I have, which is major depression and general anxiety, whatever that means to everyone. But it finally felt like someone was listening to me and understanding that, you know what, you have these thoughts, and, you know, it's not okay to have these thoughts, but it's okay that you feel this way, because, you know, we can help. So that was great. It felt like someone finally, you know, was listening to me. Because my mental health has been something that I've struggled for many, many years now. And it just felt like finally I was being heard. I mean, being a first-time mother and being in the support groups that was for mothers that have postpartum depression. A lot of the things that we talked about was around, you know, what we can do for our babies, that we are enough and everything, which was great. It definitely helped me better understand, you know, where I stand with my child, that no matter, you know, what the Instagram moms or YouTube moms say or do, you know, I was doing the best for my child. You know, my hair was always in a messy ponytail. I was constantly covered in spit and snot and milk and all this stuff. And going out for walks, I felt like a total mess. You know, whereas I see all these Instagram moms, you know, going to the beach or going to the pool or, you know, going to the park with their kids and going on trips and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, it got to me. But I know now that, you know, all that is just a moment in life, a snapshot of someone's life. You know, most people, most mothers go through what I did, or still do, and it's okay. So yeah. So with that, I have talked to my doctor recently, and we decided that it was time for me to start weaning off my medication and seeing how that goes. And that was 3-4 weeks ago. And needless to say, it has been rough. I still feel that I'm a much better place than I have been most of my life, but it has been really, really rough. Both mentally, emotionally, and physically. There's a lot that goes on in my life. You know, I work a full-time job. I'm a manager of my own department, which comes with its own stresses. And I have to say the last few weeks have been extremely stressful at work. And then I come home to my daughter, who, bless her soul, is a really good child, but she is a teenager with her thoughts and opinions and needs and wants. So trying to navigate through that right now. And then between all this, I need to find time to spend with my husband and my daughter while running a small business. And, you know, the first year running my business was, you know, pretty hectic, pretty stressful, but, you know, I felt that I had it. This past month, or really the past 2 months, I definitely know that I don't have it. And it really took a toll on me. Because, you know, this side business is not just business or work to me. This is something I love. This is something I really enjoy. And something that I really want for myself. And the first thing in my life that I've ever really done for myself. Not for anybody else, for myself. And I want to do the best that I can for it, which means that I need to put in the time. I need to put in the hours and put in the effort to do well. You know, it takes a lot of time, you know, promoting yourself. It takes a lot of time creating everything that you see in my shop. Apart from the washi tape, I hand make myself. But everything that I have in my shop, I have drawn, designed, and illustrated myself. So that is a lot of work, and just trying to find that balance between my life as being a mother and a wife and a friend and a sister and a daughter, and me being a businesswoman is really tough. So I thought, you know, stepping back a little bit, which I have in the last few months, would help. But it didn't. I actually feel that it kind of contributed to my sudden spiral down, and everything. I mean, I know majority of it is because I've come off one of my meds. And, you know, I found that, you know, my mood was starting to change again. I did find that, you know, certain, you know, intruding thoughts I was starting to pay attention to them a little bit more than I have, you know, the last while. And I felt that I just didn't have the energy to do anything, especially after work, especially after the last few weeks and how stressful it's been. So, oh, someone woke up from her nap. Hi. You okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you have a good nap?
Wait.
What's wrong?
Wait.
Oh, you left it near Daddy. You left it near Daddy. Mm-hmm. So yeah, trying to find that balance between this life and my work life is still an ongoing battle, and the last few weeks have definitely been the roughest last few weeks that I have ever had in my life. I felt that I should have had control because for the past year I have had control, and I just suddenly felt like I was reverting back to how I was before, and that scared the shit out of me. And I just let it consume me. And it shows because I haven't really drawn or designed anything in the last few weeks. I mean, I've tried to doodle here and there. But as soon as I sit down, I feel this overwhelming wave of guilt come over me because, you know, I could be spending this time with my child, or I could be spending this time with my husband, or, you know, I could be, you know, working on something for my house because my house is a mess right now. And then I would just guilt myself out of doing anything for my shop. Or at least, you know, out of doing anything more than the bare minimum for my shop. And that killed me. Because I'd feel guilty, you know, that I was disappointing every one of you. And that was it was just really rough. So, yeah, this is how the last few weeks have gone. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but it definitely wasn't great. I have a lot of things to share with you guys and to show you that I have planned for the shop, but I just need to find right now the time and the will to sit down without feeling guilty to do any of it. And I'll get there. I know I will. My body just needs time to adjust to all the changes that are going around me right now. And I know I'll be fine. And I am so thankful for everyone that has supported me all this time and continue to support me, even though I am struggling to show you that, you know, that your support is you know, of me is worth your time. But I hope to. And I will continue to work towards that. But I hope this video just helps you understand a little bit more. Hopefully this helps you guys understand a little bit more where my head has been. And that I haven't given up. Not by any means. I just hope that you understand that I need a little bit of time, and I'll get back there, you know. I'm down now, but I'll get back up. that's how my life always has been, and that's okay because it's wonderful. And yeah, I hope if you watch this far, thank you. I hope this gives you a little bit more insight to me, Lisa, mom of one, and jack of all trades, master of none. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Alright. Love you all. Keep smiling.